welcome to our next segment reading of the Asatru Edda. Asgardr here, and our next chapter begins the next segment of chapters known as the Gullveig. And in chapter 16, which we are reading today, we discuss exclusively, in depth, finally, the Aesir and all of the gods that fall under the category of Aesir and being of Asgard and Odin. The newly created Midgardr, adorned with vegetation, now lied in the prime of its existence, and was a sight that pleased the eyes of the Godin. The powers of Jotunheimr that inflict the earth with frost and drought, with whirlwinds and floods, restrained themselves and left Midgardr in peace, since they were not strong enough to dare attack the Godin's creation. The Jotnar who got to rescue themselves from Ymir's sea of blood upon the shores of Jotunheimr still lived few in numbers and were treated kindly by the Godin. Nothing disturbed the regular course of the world establishment. The seasons succeeded one another in steady time. The Grottheim mill stood erect on its foundations. The soil that it ground was abundantly mixed with gold, and it was turned around seasoned songs of blessing. The North Star stood in the uppermost heaven of the world age, and the vault of heaven did not have the sloping position it afterwards acquired. To safeguard the peace in the worlds, it was decided that all races of beings would enter into an alliance and exchange hostages. Njord is not of the Aesir family. He was brought up in Vanir, but the Vanir sent him as a hostage to the Aesir. As Freyr's father, he is the progenitor of the race of the Ynglingar, divine beings who did not originate from Asgardr, but were adopted into Odin's Ate, and thus became full citizens within the bulwarks of the Asgardr, and still retained the possessions of lands, realms, and halls, which are their Odam, and is where they are and were reared. After he became a denizen in Asgardr, Njord continued to own and reside occasionally in the Vanaborg Noatan beyond the Western Ocean. All of his children were adopted into Asgardr as well. Freyr and Frigga became prominent among the Aesir. Odin made a vow that he would marry the most beautiful woman he knew of, and was told that his brother Honir had a daughter of incomparable beauty named Frigga, Njordr's sister. A messenger was sent to Vanheimr to ask Honir for Frigga's hand, but he refused. Upon the messenger's return, when Odin asked his tidings, he said, "We have had our labors, but have not performed our errand. Our horses failed on high mountains. Afterward, we had to ford a swampy lake. Then Svafnir Honir's daughter, adorned with rings, whom we would obtain, was denied us." Odin commanded them to go a second time, and through much effort they obtained Frigga for him. They were married, and from his family came the kindred we call the Aesir. They live in Asgardr and the realms that belong to it. Each member of his family is divine. Odin can be referred to as Allfather, since he is the father of all of the Godin and men and of everything that has been accomplished by his power. With Frigga, he had his first son, and this is Asatru. He has strength and might, and because of this, he defeats all living creatures. Thor is the foremost among the Aesir. Called Asatru and Okuthor, he is the strongest of all the Godar and men. He rules at the place called Thrudvangr, and his hall is called Thrudheimr. Holy is the land which I see lying near the Aesir and Alfar, where Thor shall dwell in Thrudheimer until the powers perish. Thor is also called Atli and Asabragr. He is Enilanger and Endridi, Bjorn, Hrorida, and Hardvir, Vir, Vingthor, Sunungur, Vidar, and Rymr. With the Gagger Jornsaxa, he had the son Magni, and he would later have Modi and Thrudi, the Valkurja, with Sif. No one is so wise that he can recount all of Thor's important deeds. Thor was brought up in Jotunheimr by a jarl named Vignir, and when he was 10 years old, he received his stone hammer, Vignir's Mjolnir. So great is his beauty that he is among other people, he stands out as an elephant ivory does when inlaid in oak. His hair is more beautiful than gold. By the time he was 12 years old, he had acquired his full strength. Then he was able to lift from the ground 10 bearskins all in a pile. Next, he killed his foster father, Vignir, and his wife, Lora, or Grora, as she is also known. Afterwards, he traveled widely through many lands, exploring all parts of the world, and on his own overcame all manner of berserker and Jotnar, as well as many beasts. Thor bears ill will towards Jotun women. Odin's second son is Baldr, and there is much good to tell about him. He was born in Glassislunder. He is the best, and all praise him. One plant is so white that it is likened to Baldr's brow. It is the whitest of all plants, and from this you can judge the beauty of both his hair and his body. He is the wisest of the Godin. He is also the most beautifully spoken and most merciful, but it is a characteristic of his that once he has pronounced a judgment, it can never be altered. He once owned that hall, which is called Glitnir, but now he lives at the place called Bridabrick. It is in Odinsakur, and no impurity may be there, as is said. It is called Bridabrick, where Baldr has made a hall for himself. In that land where I know that there are the fewest perils. Baldr was sent to Manni to be raised on the moon. Hodr is the name of one of the Godar. He is Baldr's twin brother and Odin's third son. He is a great hunter and is immensely strong. Greater is his strength than his growth. Well can he wield swords, as well cast forth spears and shoot shafts and hold spears, back a horse, and do all the great deeds that he learned in the days of his youth. As a stripling, Hodr surpassed his foster brothers and contemporaries in his immensely sturdy physique, not to mention his talent for a variety of skills. He was as knowledgeable and deft in swimming, archery, and boxing as any youth could be, for strength and training together made him a champion. His richly endowed mind made him outstrip his unripe years. No one was a more expert harpist or lute player, as well as which he was dexterous in the whole art of the psaltery, lyre, and fiddle. He performed in different modes he could excite in men's hearts whenever emotions he wished: joy, sorrow, pity, or hatred, and by delighting or dismaying their ears could capture their minds. A particular mode of song, Hadarlag, is named after him. Hodr was a handsome youth, but thoughtless in character, violent, easily moved, easily led, and passionate with raging emotions. His behavior once depended on whose influence he was under at the time. For a whole, he allowed Baldr to lead him and made him worthy of praise. Thereafter, he allowed Gullveig and Loki to influence him, and he committed deeds he deeply regretted. Baldr almost always had Hodr near him. They were inseparable friends, and Baldr's gentleness worked to calm Hodr's raging temperament. It is said that when Hodr was a boy, he was so impulsive, wanton, and mischievous, and so easily fell under Loki's influence, that Odin thought it best to send him away to be taught by Mimir. Mimir accepted the duties of teacher of a handsome Asa son and instilled rich character in him. The boy was willing to learn and became skilled in poetry, song, and the art of the smith, and many sports. Mimir taught Hodr all manner of arts, the playing of tafel, the lore of the runar, the talking of many tongues. Hodr flourished and, before reaching his teenage years, had gained unusual physical strength. But his impulsiveness and his violence were not easily quelled. He engaged in mischief, especially when he was in the smithy. Once, when Sindri had been scolding him, the boy took Draupnir's renowned smith by the hair and dragged him out over the threshold. On another occasion, when he was ordered to work at the forge, but did not want to, he hit the anvil so hard with his sledgehammer that the anvil burst into pieces. But by degrees, Mimir in his wisdom succeeded in tempering and taming his temper, if not his impulsiveness, and when his teacher sent him back to Asgardr, a fair, courteous youth trained in many sports, Odin received him with much love, and he was well accepted by all of his relatives in Asgardr. Then he was allowed to join his brother Baldr to be fostered by Manni. Tyr is the name of another of Odin's son. He is the boldest and most courageous. For men of action, he is good to invoke. The expression goes that a man is Tihastur if he is the type who advances out in front, never loses his courage. Tyr is so wise that a clever person is said to Tyrspakur. It is a mark of his daring that when the Aesir tried to lure the wolf Fenrir in order to put the fetter Gleipnir on him, the wolf would not trust the Godin to free him until finally they placed Tyr's hand as a pledge in the wolf's mouth. Then, when the Aesir refused to free him, the wolf bit off the hand, at which is now called Ulfingdur. Because of this, Tyr is one-handed, and men do think of him as a peacemaker. Odin fathered Tyr with the beautiful Grigr, who was a friend of the Godin and was also one of those found in Jotunheimr. Tyr's mother was married to the Jotunheimr and allowed Tyr to remain as foster son in Hymir's Odal during his early years. One is called Vidar, Valfather's mighty son, and he is the silent god. The Giger Gridr was the mother of Vidar Ingthogli. He has a thick shoe and is nearly as strong as Thor. The Godin rely on him in all difficulties. Vidar may be called Intolga As, or possessor of the iron shoe, enemy slayer of the Fenrisulfur, the Godin's avenging As, father's homestead inhabiting As, and son of Odin, brother of the Aesir. Vidar's spacious Landvidi is overgrown with branches and high grass. There the son will descend from the steed's back and boldly avenge his father. Odin exchanged pledges of mutual friendship with Mimir, which were never broken by either of them. Odin gave Mimir the Gjallarhorn as a pledge. All kinds of staves were engraved and painted on the horn, and the long hearthfish armor of Haddingjaland, Hell, unharvested ears of grain, and animals' entrails were all carved on the horn. When one, incapable of restraining his greed, stretches uncontrollable hands towards the horn, it will lengthen into an ormer and take the life of its bearer if he is not meant to touch it. Mimir gave the Godin's friend and the world's benefactor through voluntary action. He acquired Odin's friendship because he let him drink of his mead. Odin demanded and received oaths of loyalty from the Alfar, among whom Ivaldi and his sons were Jarlar. It was decided by the Godin that Vulindur and his brothers would take exchange of the upbringing of Freyr. Odin's sons were fostered in Jotunheimr. These young Godar were a fierce temperament, stalwart in their early manhood, preeminent in their physique, and famous as the conquerors of the Jotnar. They were also renowned for triumphs over the powers of frost and rich with their spoils. In return, the Jotnar gave hostages the Jotun maid Gullveig and the Jotun youth Loki. Both of them got to stay in Asgardr, where Gullveig was taken into Frigga's household as her maidservant. When one desires to have a child, they pray to the Godin with the heart and soul that they might have one. And so it is said that Odin hears their prayers, and Frigga no less heeds their petition. So she, never lacking for all good counsel, would, at that time, call her casket-bearing maid Hrimnir's daughter Gullveig, and set out an apple in her hand and bid her to carry it to all her devotees. Gullveig would take the apple, put on the feather guise, and would fly to Midgardr till she found them and would drop it in their lap of those who had prayed for it, and upon eating it the woman would soon grow big with child. For these are the fruits of Yggdrasil, the manna mjötulur. These duties were conferred upon all of Frigg's maids. Loki was not a big man, but he early on developed a caustic tongue and was alert in trickery and unequal in a kind of cleverness that is called cunning. He was very full of guile, even in his youth, and for this reason he was called Loki the Sly. He set off to Odin's home in Asgardr and became his man. Odin always would have a good word for him, whatever he did, and often laid heavy tasks upon him, all of which he performed better than expected. He also knew almost everything that happened, and he told Odin whatever he knew. Odin and Loki mixed their blood together and vowed to never taste mead unless it was offered to them both. Almost immediately, Loki began plotting against the Godin. At this time, he married the Dis named Sigyn, who would become very devoted to him, and they had 2 sons together. Thank you for listening in on today's segment where we discussed and explored the gods of Asgard in depth. Thank you for supporting the channel. Hit that thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe so you can see all of our new content. Thank you again for listening in, and we'll see you on the next segment.